Hiya, Barbie.
Hi, Ken.
You want to go do a podcast?
Sure.
Jump in.
Ladies and gentlemen, mini dolls and Technic, minifigures of all ages, and everyone else, welcome to Binging Barbie. I'm your host, John, and with me I have my co-host. He's so not a villain. He has zero evil plans. There's like no reason at all to be suspicious of Jay.
Exactly. I'm the most least evil co-host in history.
Yeah, I've heard those words before. And joining us once again, we have a special guest. Toa is one tough cookie. He's a cookie so tough and hard you can't even chew it. Because it turns out it's not a cookie, it's a chainsaw.
Chainsaw noises.
Vroom vroom. Anyway, this is a podcast about toy media franchises, 2000s nostalgia, and whatever else we want to talk about. And this week we are back to talk about the Lego Movie 2, the second part. Yeah.
This was my second time seeing it. I had actually seen it in the theater with my grandparents, just like Lego Ninjago. I think it was a month after it had come out, and empty theater.
Yep.
Interesting experience. I actually enjoyed this one the first time around more than I did Ninjago, and we'll talk about my thoughts this time around. But had either of you seen this before?
Yeah, I think I also saw it in theaters, but I only watched it the one time. It was because this came out 2019, so I think it was like for some reason I was visiting family, and I want to say it was like my dad and I that were like, "Hey, we should go watch a movie," but there's not a lot of movies out. And I was like, "Oh, I do want to watch the new Lego movie," and he was like, "Okay." And I watched it and had some takes that I don't have now, admittedly.
Okay.
But yeah. I have not seen it since, aside from last night when I watched it.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah.
This was like one of those COVID films where you have nothing to do, so we watched it on the streaming service. Didn't really care for it then. I had the exact same feelings this morning. Didn't really care for it now, but yeah.
Yeah, this is an odd one. It was released February 8th, 2019. I think that release date was maybe somewhat of a mistake. Also, I feel like they released this at the exact wrong time. Like if this had come out instead of the Lego Batman movie, people might have been a bit more receptive to it because it had been 5 years since the first one.
Yeah.
And the first one was already like targeting an older kid demographic. So now those older kids who watched it are teenagers who may or may not still care about Emmett and Wild Style and their continuing adventures.
True.
But yeah, this was directed by Mike Mitchell, who is the director of Sky High, Shrek Forever After, and Trolls. The animated may eventually be covered on this podcast since it's a toy movie.
We'll see.
Yep. We have a previous guest who is very interested in talking about one of the Trolls movies. But yeah, this is written by Phil Lord and Christopher Miller again, and Matthew Fogel contributing to the story. Fogel also wrote on Minions, The Rise of Gru, and the Super Mario Brothers movie. So more on the Illumination side of things. And we have music once again. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say it does have those vibes in this movie a little bit. I can feel his presence.
And yeah, once again, we have music by Mark Mothersbaugh with original songs by Christopher Miller, Sean Patterson, and John Lagogi. I don't know. I should check pronunciations before I start recording. But yeah, this made a little under $200 million at the box office on a budget of $100 million. So not the success that they were hoping for. At this point, Warner Brothers is in the process of separating from Lego, and Lego eventually ends up with Universal for their movies. So far, only one film has come from that deal.
Mhm.
But yeah, that's piece by piece, which we will be talking about next week. But yeah, John,
Ooh.
what's the plot?
All right, here's the plot. 5 years after the Duplos attack, Bricksburg has been completely destroyed. And the survivors live in a Mad Max style wasteland, and despite this, Emmett has maintained his positive outlook. One day, a spaceship from the Sistar system attacks, kidnapping Wildstyle, Batman, and other supporting characters from the last movie, but we don't have to know about them. Anyway, Emmett follows in a spaceship of his own, but nearly crashes, and he's saved by Rex Danger Vest, who warns him about the dangers of the Sistar system. Wildstar and Batman are taken to meet Queen Whatever, Watanabe. Okay, the most least evil person in history. So Whatever is planning a big wedding to Batman at a temple. A big wedding to Batman at a temple in the Sistar. That's a phrase. Big wedding to Batman.
Yeah, I worded that weird.
Yes. Anyway, despite singing a song about how not evil she is, Wildstyle remains unconvinced, and she escapes and meets up with Rex and Emmett, who are planning to destroy the temple and stop the wedding. They think Whatever is planning to trigger Armageddon, an apocalyptic event that would send everyone to the ominous bin of Starage. And Wildstyle infiltrates the temple and fights one of Whatever's generals, Mayhem. And Mayhem explains that their motivations are entirely altruistic and that the wedding really is a gesture of peace. Wildstyle tries to stop Emmett, but Rex convinces him that she's been brainwashed. And Emmett begins destroying the temple. And in the real world, Finn is fighting with his sister over the Legos. The mom comes into the room and they demand they put all the Legos in the storage since they can't get along. And Rex reveals that he is a future version of Emmett who got stuck under the dryer. Ooh. And he tries to get Emmett to join him, but Emmett cares too much about his friends. Rex sends him under the dryer to go through the same experience he did. And as Finn is putting away the Legos, he comes across the remains of Queen Whatever, which turns out to be a heart that he made for his sister. And he realizes that all along his sister just wanted to play with him. And so Wildstyle Emmett finds Emmett under the dryer, and Emmett says that he would never grow up to be Rex, which causes Rex to disappear because of time travel or something. The rules don't make sense. Anyway, Finn and his sister start playing together, and their mom lets them keep the Legos out. That's the most important part.
Yep,
Will
true.
Ferrell
Oh, and
is in the background somewhere. I don't know.
yes, and you know what he says. He says, "Honey,
Honey,
where are my
where are
pants?"
my
Yes,
pants?
yes,
I like the sincerity with which he delivers it. It's
Yeah,
just very like matter of fact.
yeah.
yeah.
Uh, this was a movie. This I can confirm.
This was a
Yeah,
movie.
I
No,
feel like I liked it a bit more than both of you.
actually, okay. I'm talking a little bit of smack, but I admit this movie was fine. The first time I watched it, I didn't like it. I thought it was just okay. Um, and I think I really had a lot of problems with the time travel bit because I'm like, well, we know that this is happening in a kid's brain, so how are we doing time travel in the real world? This is so confusing. Um, but on my rewatch last night, I enjoyed it actually quite a bit more. And truthfully, there's a lot of aspects that I wonder went into me disliking it the first time. Whether it's, having mostly just been watching Marvel stuff where they take time travel and mechanics like that a lot more seriously, or whether it's you know, there had been so many Lego movies released in the past few years that I was getting fatigued from it.
Yeah.
Um, but having watched it last night, I think it was like a worthy sequel. I think it was fine. And I think like the elements of the like outside world where it's actually the kids that are coming up with the story made a lot more sense to me in this second watch.
Yeah, the plot definitely doesn't quite hang together, and like the more I try to figure out the mechanics of what is happening in the real world and what is happening in the Lego world, and how those things are like it just doesn't make sense. But it is serving these great themes and these interesting character arcs. So I'm a little bit more inclined to forgive the weird plot stuff.
Mhm.
John, I assume you're on the opposite side of that divide.
I just don't care. Like I couldn't get invested in this like 5 years ago, and like again, it was just I was struggling to be interested in this. I got through halfway through the film, and I'm like, man, I just don't care about any of this. It's just not
Mm.
interesting to me. Like it is the logical sequel to be the sister. That's what we. That's what they did at the end. But I don't know. It didn't work for me. Either the comedy just wasn't doing it for me, or just like there was just maybe I was just tired of the charm of the Lego films by this point. So it was just yeah.
Yeah, this
That's fair.
is slightly less funny. I don't know what it is. I wasn't laughing as much at this one, even compared to like the Lego Ninjago movie, which was
Mm.
already a bit weak on that side for me. Here, yeah, I can't think of any stuff that really made me laugh out loud. There is a lot of like clever stuff and fun references, but yeah, it doesn't have that same thing. But then at the same time, it has a lot of interesting themes, which we're gonna get into in a little bit. That I think maybe make up a bit for that a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, with the first one, as John was saying, like the first one is about the dad and that relationship between Finn and his dad. So this is the logical next step to bring in the sister, the thing that was teased in the last movie. And I like that they play out the scene that they cut off from the last movie, that we get
Yeah.
to see what that looked like. It's sort of the destruction that comes as this metaphor for what is happening, where Finn is now having to play with his sister and it is not going well at all. Um,
Yeah. And the first one is also a bit about like the awe and creativity of Lego, where they explore their different themes, and it was like really fun to see that. Where here, that focus just wasn't really a thing at all. It was more about the thing with the sister, which
Yeah,
which
that's true.
you can really feel that with like the side characters, which we'll
It
get
yeah,
is
into
inter-
later.
yeah, it is interesting that the focus where like the focus for the last movie was Emmett becoming a master builder, and they put a lot of focus on what a master builder is. This they didn't put as much focus on it, but the kind of the arc that they were kind of teasing throughout is becoming a master breaker,
Mm.
and how it's just as powerful because you can destroy things, um, and then obviously with the twists and turns in it, we realize okay, well maybe that's actually not as good as they make it appear to be. Um,
yeah,
so it's almost like an inverse arc in that regard. But I will say this movie does have a little bit less Lego charm in the sense of like it's not hmm, how do I put it? The last movie felt like it was a kid grabbing random toys out of a toy box and putting them together. This one felt like okay, there's a writer's room and we're putting things together, and sometimes you might see a cameo from this character, but it's not like a kid being like, oh yeah, obviously Superman's going to show up on the Council of Master
Yeah,
Builders because he's Superman.
and we have Lego Bruce Willis.
Yeah, Lego Bruce Willis was a highlight of this movie.
yeah. I had forgotten how many times he showed up. But yeah, this is a very odd one.
Hmm.
You're right that they're doing less. They still have little references to
The yeah.
the different stuff, and you have more of like the Lego friend side of things, which I will get into that. I think that is a very important aspect of this. But yeah, we aren't seeing the different lands. We aren't seeing, it's kind of all been smushed together in this like Mad Max world that then goes off into space. And Yeah, we don't even get like the different planets of the Sistar system aren't different things. They're kind of all
Yeah.
within the same.
Yeah. There's a lot of questions that I have too of like truthfully a lot of the where it breaks down in this movie for me is with the parents because the
Yeah.
parents like in the first film even Will Ferrell not really being there for his kids, it's like okay, he's kind of supposed to be portrayed as not necessarily a bad father but as someone who could be doing better as a father. But it ends the film with being like, okay, well, now that you're down here, your sister gets to be allowed down here. And I was talking to a friend as we were watching that, and we're like, if the sister's like significantly younger, they can wait, and it can just be a you can go down here once you're 8 years old or something. That's
Yeah.
fine. And then in this movie, um, similar things, except uh, one the whole like Lego room is like it looks a lot more dismantled, which was weird to me because it seemed like that was like a major focus of the father and of the son to have a like even if by the end of the film the whole crux was like yeah, do what you want to do with Lego. It does seem weird that a lot of the stuff was broken down. Um and then on top of that like the mother's me and my friend watching this disagreed fervently with the mother's parenting style of okay, well, if you guys can't get along, we're putting all your toys, which we spent thousands of dollars on, into a storage bin for ever for an allotted amount of time. They don't specify in the movie. But it was like, okay, I get it. I understand they needed a plot device, but also I don't agree with that parenting style. I'll be honest.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's weird what they do because even just like, yeah, Will Ferrell's character has completely regressed to the point of like, yeah, the last movie we see his arc of becoming a better father, but then like immediately once his kids start fighting, we see President Business is like, okay, you guys can sort this out. I'm gonna go play golf, and I do think part of that is they didn't want to pay Will Ferrell to have him come back fully, or he wasn't available scheduling wise because he makes no appearance here. His lines are all from off camera. But yeah,
Yeah.
it is like disappointing kind of to see. Oh, he hasn't actually become a better father. He is avoiding the conflict that he has started and pushing that off on his wife, who is maybe not making the best parenting decisions either. Yeah, yeah, and it is like the plot, the weird plot mechanics and everything. It does feel very writerly of okay, we need this and that to work in order for the story to hang together. So we're just gonna kind of hand wave stuff like the time travel stuff. Who know what's going on with that?
I mean,
Um,
Rex should have disappeared the moment he saved Emmett. Or if
Yeah.
yeah,
that, yeah, if that was a logic that they were going with, it that shouldn't have worked. But whatever.
I think it's
It's
because Emmett is still on the path to become Rex until
Even then, like him turning good shouldn't have like made Rex disappear, because like he's broken into the timeline. Like, well, what's whatever.
yeah.
They're just
I,
trying to.
yeah.
They were just referencing Back to the Future at that point. So
yeah.
Yeah, to be fair, I think Infinity War did a lot of good things for time travel, but it has also made a lot of people a lot more stingy around it. Truth be told, I do think this time travel is a little bit lazy. But the way I was able to frame it in this movie is even though we see the story in like a chronological order in a relatively easy to perceive timeline, I think the way I see it from the kid's perspective is the older kid is kind of using elements in his story to justify certain things that he's doing or justify
Yeah.
certain things that he's done. And in my brain, I feel like a lot of the story is told in a like told to himself after the events of everything that happened as a way
Yeah.
for him to cope with it. So he's like, "Oh, I was a bad person because um I felt lonely or I felt like I needed to be this masculine um older mature brother and my reflection on what has happened um I'm realizing that I can just be my normal goofy self even around my little sister. And so I see those because like the whole prophecy thing obviously doesn't work if the child is like imagining this in his head and is like, "Yes, at 5:15 I'm going to go up and destroy my sister's things. That's a great idea." Okay, I don't feel like that's the character. So I do feel
Yeah.
like a
Yeah.
lot of the story in and of itself is told from a uh hindsight perspective.
Yeah. And I mean, we even have stuff like Finn has a line near the beginning of the movie, like a throwaway in the background line of like, "Oh, but I'm planning this big story involving time travel." So they
Yeah.
are like
Yeah.
seeding it in there. And then yeah, I do think it makes sense. Some of it makes sense if you are looking at it as Finn and maybe even Finn and Bianca are together playing out what has just transpired. Um,
Mm,
I think that explains some of it. I think there's still some stuff that and again, a lot of it is just things that they are doing to preserve the twists, like
yeah.
Queen, whatever as motivations from scene to scene don't really hang together once you know that she is being completely sincere. But at the same
Yeah.
time, I'm like, how much do I even care about that? And the answer is, I on an emotional level, I connect with this a lot. Like the sibling stuff was making me a little bit misty eyed near the end. Um,
Mhm.
so yeah, I don't know how much I'm too worried about the plot elements and the science of the time travel. It reminded me a lot of rewatching Interstellar and being like, oh, the emotions of it ring true, so I'm not going to think as deeply about the science of it.
Yeah. I mean, the Lego Movie franchise has a really cheap ace up their sleeve in being like, "Hey, well, the story actually is okay to not be perfect because it's being made by a child. So don't worry about
Yeah.
it. It's don't look over here kind of thing." And unfortunately, it works on me. And I think, yes, this makes sense for a child to come up with this story.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. Yeah, it is like I think you can fault the movie for a lot of these things, but I think that is the least interesting way to approach what this film is doing.
yeah,
Because yeah,
that's fair.
this is a movie about Finn kind of going through the same arc that his dad went through in the previous movie, but from the perspective of a kid and from someone who is growing up and trying to figure out what is his approach and his identity within the world. And yeah, like
Yeah.
even though they never say it, I think this movie is a lot about gender and gendered play.
Yeah.
Like it frames it as like Finn growing up and like being a grown up versus being a kid, but I do think like the specificness of his sister is using the Lego Friends sets and using more
Sure.
pastel colors and pinks and this kind of stuff. And that Finn is initially rejecting that stuff and going against it. Um,
Yep.
they aren't being like this isn't the Barbie movie, so they aren't saying feminism or patriarchy or anything. But I do think that is intentional here.
Yeah, I think that's totally fair. And I think from like a toy franchise, it's fascinating. Like it's interesting to see Lego do it because
Yeah.
for the most part, there's a lot of toys that are very particularly gendered. And sometimes that gendering is kind of arbitrary, where like we talk about some franchises not doing as well because they don't have a defined gender line. So like how Young Justice, the TV show, had to be canceled because its merchandising was appealing to both boys and girls, and the merchandisers did not want that. They wanted to make sure that it was only one. If toys were going to one family, only the boys would want this one, and only the girls would want this one. That's why they would buy double the toys. Um, but in this film, it's kind of put both of the children into two separate boxes of the boy can only play with the boy toys, and the girl thus has to only be able to play with her Legos. But she specifically wants to interact with her brother, even if she's not as good as at communicating with that. And maybe that's partially because, hey, I don't necessarily want to be stuck with just the pastels and Lego friends. I want Batman in the wedding. I like these
Yeah.
characters too. And on the flip side, it puts the boy in the box of like, well, I can't play with the girl things because that's for girls. And while it doesn't overtly say that, I like how it touches on how it's okay for the girl side of things to have the like rough and tumble like character with a mask that doesn't care about anybody's feelings supposedly. And it's okay for the boy to have characters that are more feminine, that aren't dark and gritty. So that side of it I do really think they did a good job in handling.
Yeah. It's fascinating to me as someone who has a very, I think, atypical experience with this kind of thing. Because when I was growing up, I don't ever remember my parents like telling me I couldn't play with certain toys. Like I would play with My Little Pony. I would play with Barbie. I had my own like littlest pet shop. I would
Yeah.
play Polly Pockets and all those things with my sisters. And then they would play Brio and Lego and whatever else I was doing. So there wasn't that like delineation created by my parents. And even like my dad does a lot of chores around the house. So like I think some people think of like cleaning the bathroom or doing the dishes as like that's the woman's job. But those were things that my dad would do all the time. So I didn't grow up with that distinction. But then going to school, I was interacting with other kids who had other gendered expectations put on them, and then learning like, oh, here's the difference between the boy toys and the girl toys and the boy stuff and the girl stuff. um so I did eventually like internalize some of that stuff.
Yeah, for sure. And I think like for me, I grew up with two older sisters, and so I growing up, I was like, yeah, I want to play with the Barbies too. They look like they're having fun. I want to play with the Barbies. And how the gendering came up for me was not, I don't think like my sister's trying to be cruel or my sister's even trying to be particularly um putting gender in specific boxes, but more of like a we don't want to play with you, so we're gonna say that these toys are only for girls, so it's an easy out for us.
Yeah.
Um, and from a grown up perspective, I get it. It's a good excuse. Did it hurt when I was a kid? A little bit, but it put me into my own box of okay, well then I'm gonna play with my Bionicles. So it's just kind of an interesting phenomena how that happens, whether it's intentional or unintentional.
Yeah, and it's fascinating to me that like the Lego movie, the second Lego movie, is trying to engage in that conversation. And yeah,
Yeah,
that the conclusion of it is, hey, there's actually a way to play with both sides, and there doesn't need to be this clear line between. Does it have to be the apocalypse Mad Max boy side and the girly space stars side. It could be, what if it's both together and you aren't too concerned about either what falls into which category. And yeah, that was like, as a very young kid, that's what I was raised with. But then yeah, going to
Yeah.
school and having these expectations, I then had to like re-examine that. And I mean, even more recently, like I remember in college having a day where I realized, I think the way I talk, like I am artificially lowering my own speaking register
Mm,
unconsciously, because I think that feels like what I'm quote unquote supposed to do, or like changing the way I walk.
yeah.
So yeah, I did find this very relatable from that perspective of like, oh yeah, no, there is, like, once you let go of those societal expectations, then you can enjoy both things. And that's the other thing.
Yeah.
It isn't a rejection of the masculine. It is, hey, we can you can be Mad Max and also girly spaceship stuff. And yeah, yeah, I
Yeah.
appreciate that.
I totally agree. They do a good job of embodying this struggle through the lens of a few different characters, which we'll get to.
Yeah, yeah,
But I think their character work in this one is really good for this specific theme of the film.
yeah. John, were you picking up on any of this stuff, or were you not really?
I mean, sure, I can pick up on it, but I can't really relate to it.
Okay.
Me and my sister were 5 years apart, so by the time I was like conscious enough to like be into playing toys, she was like outgrowing it, and so I would get some of her stuff because she didn't want them anymore. We didn't really have any issues of like who's having what because she got more into book reading. Me, I don't like books, so I I wasn't gonna be a part of that. So yeah.
Yeah, not as much overlap there then, in terms of, whereas yeah, for me it's like, oh, this is speaking very directly, not just to like toys and play, but also to like broader. It's interesting that one of the things that they point out as like this sort of difference between Finn and Bianca is like the pop music. Because
Yeah.
I recently had the epiphany of, because especially in high school I would listen all I mean, I still do. I love Google Translate Sings, from
Yeah.
Mm,
Melinda Kathleen Reese, and I would listen to those so much in high school and just
Mm.
loved them, loved how funny and silly and weird they are. But I was also kind of realizing a couple months ago that I think part of the reason I listened so much to that was because I felt like I wasn't allowed to listen to pop music. And so that was a way for me to enjoy the pop music while pretending that's not what I was enjoying. Like there's this level of irony that's a little bit of distance. But then, like, yeah, in the time since, like, I would listen to the blank space Google Translate Sings all the time and be like, oh yeah, this is so funny. But now I've grown up and like looking back at it, I'm like, no, I actually like Taylor Swift's blank space just as it is. And I think that was just a way for me to like put a level of irony between the two. So yeah, then
yeah.
coming back to this movie, and like even in 2019 when this initially came out, that was the stuff that I was catching on to, where the way it is engaging with gender is something that spoke to me even then.
Yeah.
Mm.
But yeah, at the same time, it's like, yeah, the jokes didn't land nearly as consistently for me.
Yeah. I
There's
think
that like level.
because the story that they were telling here was a little bit more nuanced than the last one, I think they really had to focus more on the plot than they did some of the humor. And they still had a
Yeah.
lot of humor, but in the last film, the basis for the humor was a lot simpler. It was just, hey, we're going to be having this character interact with this character that are from completely different franchises and universes, and that is half the humor mixed with some like really good physical humor. Whereas in this one, it's a lot less grounded because you're like, okay, how does the star system play into all of this? It's not in the same basement, so it's not the same world lines. It's not on a table, so we like even in like Lego Batman movie, that's a big part of the plot is that it's on a table. And like just different things like that where it's not you as a viewer don't necessarily feel as like you don't feel like you know the world as much going into it. So there's a lot of explanation that they have to do that takes up some of the spots of where jokes might have been.
Yeah, and
Um,
even some of the writers' attention that could have gone to writing jokes, and instead trying to turn this giant mishmash of ideas into a plot that kind of hangs together. So I can definitely see how the humor kind of gets lost in that. Unfortunately, I do think that is part of the reason this isn't as well received as other Lego movies, because there's a lot going on under the surface. But if you aren't catching on to that, like, it isn't necessarily as entertaining as the other Lego movies have been.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I would argue it's still very entertaining, but
I think
yeah,
so too.
there's
I
just
think
little things.
yeah, the humor is definitely it's at a slower pace is how I will put it. I still
Yeah,
think the humor is there and the moments that they do well. The only joke that for me I remember watching in theaters and still kind of agree with is they take a little bit too long with Maya Rudolph stepping on the Lego multiple times.
yeah, yeah,
I was like, this is a funny joke if they had just done it the first time and that was like her breaking point. I would have been like, okay, that is funny, that's relatable, but it moves the story along. But she does it twice, and I'm like, okay, now you're milking it, and now she's comparing it to childbirth, and that's funny, but it's a bit long.
yeah, and it's in the middle of this very emotional scene
Yeah,
that, yeah, takes up the scene in a way that it maybe shouldn't. And like, yeah, you have
yeah,
Maya Rudolph on set, so you're going to get her to, and she might have even been riffing at a certain point.
Mm-hmm.
So they maybe don't want to cut too much of that out. But yeah, it does, like, pacing wise, just doesn't quite fit.
yeah. The other weird part for me in this film was that the dad had his own character in this story. The
Yeah,
mom doesn't at all. She's just kind of a force, which I guess is fine. Like it serves the story well enough. But maybe again, I'm more frustrated at the parenting style of the dad is actively involved in this hobby with his kids, but the mom isn't. She's just kind of oppositional towards it,
yeah.
which story wise, it's not a problem. It is just frustrating to me as a viewer because I'm like, that's
No, yeah,
no,
yeah.
go play with Legos with your kids.
Yeah, that is, honestly, I think I have more memories of playing Legos with my mom than with my dad.
Mm,
I played other stuff with my dad, and yeah,
sure. Yeah, yeah.
it's less. But yeah, no, that there is this still this, like, it's even feels almost gendered in a way, but
Mm-hmm.
both that she is like, she has to be the bad guy, she has to be the one to actually, yeah, that her husband, as soon as things get difficult, leaves and expects her to pick up this labor of getting the kids to do what they, or like engaging with the kids and trying to teach them to play well together, gets put on her
Yeah.
rather than him, actually sticking around and being there for them.
Yeah. And it could just be something that, was building in the background and the dad is just busy.
Yeah,
He is president business or whatever. And so he's
CEO
busy
of
and he has this
Mattel, as we see in Barbie.
yeah, he has this golf tournament. So he's going to do that and the golf tournament is the one day that like everything goes wrong. Um,
I,
I don't
I
know.
will push back a little bit on that and say that when President Business goes off to play golf, it is framed as very much he is going to do that to avoid having to actually deal with the fallout of anything that is going on.
Plus, there's
That
a
is true.
5 year time skip.
Yeah,
True.
yeah. Um
It does feel like the dad probably does that pretty frequently.
yeah. And then even later we hear like there's when Rudolph is in the room like chastising the kids. So somehow he gets roped into this conversation. He's just like, kids, do what your mom says, which is this
Yeah.
common refrain, which honestly that could be an interesting thing for a film, not this one, to explore, of the expectation of moms to do the emotional labor of raising kids while dads kind of get to go and do golf and whatever they want.
Yeah. I do think it definitely plays on that joke a lot.
Yeah.
Um, without maybe tackling it. It's kind of like a, hey, this is a problem. We're aware of the problem. This is not what this movie is about.
Yeah, yeah. It is very much outside. Like the bigger issues within this family are maybe a bit outside the scope of this movie. It is still though unfortunate that like yeah, the last movie had such a good arc for the dad, and
Yeah.
this movie just ignores that. And I think I relate more to what this movie is doing than what the last movie did, because my dad was very much not like President Business, or whatever
That's
the
fair.
dad, the man upstairs, whatever his
Yeah.
name may be. Um, Whereas here, like, yeah, I am the older sibling to younger sisters, so I could relate a bit more to this one.
Yeah.
Now, as we're kind of wrapping up the thoughts on the plot, this movie has the perfect ending if it had ended 5 minutes earlier, which is Maya Rudolph is like walking around the house. She hears some yelling and she's like, oh no, what are my kids doing? She walks and she looks outside and they're just playing Legos together on the patio. And she's like, oh, I don't need to do anything about this. They're getting along together. This is nice. And then Will Ferrell yells out, honey, where are my pants? And then the camera is in the yard and then it slowly pans up to the sky. It's like, oh, that would have been so perfect as an ending. But then, of course, we have to go into Legoland and wrap up all of the different plot threads and whatever.
Yeah. I think there's like a necessity to do that because like to tie up some of the stuff, but
Yeah,
also because I think they probably thought at the time, oh yeah, we'll make another sequel to this later. I'm sure of it.
yeah.
So we have to tie this up. We can't just let this be in the kids' imagination. Um and yeah, I don't know that we're getting another Lego movie.
No, yeah, it is the perfect franchise ender of like we have exited the Lego world and now
Yeah.
things are right in the real world for the time being. But then yeah,
Yeah.
they were maybe hoping to continue to make these that, I mean, maybe they will. I don't know where, because obviously Universal currently has the deal to make more Lego movies and they don't have the rights to like Batman. So
Right.
we probably aren't going to be seeing Lego Batman again. I don't know where Emmett and Wildstyle and all of those characters fall though.
Yeah, I would assume that they probably are under. Ooh, I don't know actually.
I think
Yeah.
they're one
My
of
thought
I'm
is
those
they're
sure
properties.
probably
yeah,
owned. Oh,
that
maybe.
might be the case. Which
Hmm.
yeah, it's unfortunate that because of corporate rights holding. But again, I don't know that I feel the need for more Lego movies with these characters.
No,
Yeah.
I kind of like
So,
that the most recent Lego movie is a documentary. Like I
mm,
feel there's so many interesting things that can be done with Lego as a medium rather than as a story.
Yeah, that's fair. And I do think like between this and the last film, we've gotten the story of these are kids telling the story. And it's cute and it's sweet and there's an overarching plot in the real world and that's good. But how many times can they do that before it's like, okay, we get it. We understand. It's fine. Cuz even like I was saying before, I feel like I was feeling fatigued after just seeing the first Lego movie and the Lego Batman movie. And mind you, I didn't see the Lego Ninjago movie until like a week ago.
Yeah.
So if I had been watching all of them in theaters and then they're like, "Yeah, Lego Movie 3," I'd be like, "Oh, awesome," and then be like, "Oh, but will I actually want to watch it?" Happy that they're making
Mm.
more, but I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm almost more interested in what can we do with Lego again as a medium. What
Yeah,
stories can we tell with Lego that make them more interesting versus trying to continue any pre-existing saga, or even like
yeah,
we already have a Lego movie that comments on Lego as a brand.
Yeah.
yeah,
We don't necessarily need more of those. Actually, we have two between this one and the first Lego movie.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
this is. Oh, go ahead. Yeah,
I think like they could have like even in how they did the Lego Ninjago movie, that movie is I think 10 times better if rather than it being a story that exists between two characters out of the universe, I think it's better if they're just like, "Hey, this is canon Lego Ninjago stuff and we're going to pull from deep lore and it's going to be weird and crazy and it's going to be fun."
yeah,
But the that movie specifically just does not we have already talked about it. I'm not going to get
yeah,
into it,
yeah,
but like the target audience is weird.
yeah,
And I think Lego can sometimes struggle with target audiences because there's a lot of people that grew up with Lego. There's a lot of kids that still play with Lego. There's a lot of adults that still build with Lego. But they're sometimes they're trying to appeal to everyone. And I think it's okay if they only appeal to a specific group of people, as long as they're being true to that group of people.
yeah. It's interesting. I haven't seen it yet. I'm very much looking forward to though. But oh no, I'm actually wrong. I thought that Piece by Piece was PG-13, but it is actually PG. But you can feel that
Mm,
they have a specific audience that they're looking to appeal to, and the Lego is a style being put on top of that rather than it being a Lego movie in the same way that the first Lego movie is. And
yeah.
again, I haven't seen that one. I don't know how it works, but just based on the premise, I probably wouldn't watch a documentary about Pharrell. I will definitely be interested in watching a documentary about Pharrell that is done in Lego. And
True.
it makes me
I'll
curious
give
like
them that.
what other properties they
I
could
mean,
Legofy.
I mean, doing something different like Better Man, where instead of having Robbie Williams
Yeah.
be himself, they just have a monkey do drugs instead to make it sadder. So,
Yeah.
I need to see that one. I have heard very good things about that. And yeah, that is, I absolutely hate the music biopic genre. And I have been watching way too many of them because I've been watching through the best picture nominees of the 2000s and now 2010s, and there's like one per year. But
ah,
I am very, very excited to get around to Better Man eventually, because I'm like, just having a unique and creative concept can go so far in making your story more interesting. Yeah, I
Yeah.
guess this doesn't really have much to do with the Lego movie, the second part, but that is a long way of saying like, I'm not sad that we probably won't see Emmett or Wildstyle again, because I think
Yeah.
their story has served its purpose.
hmm
Yeah.
Yeah.
To be fair, I think Lego tends to struggle with endings too, because
Yeah.
it's toy media. They want it to go on as long as it can. I think this is a good ending. This is a good spot where it's like they don't need to even have it say the end in big letters to let us know that this is the end of the franchise. It just left on a good spot, a nice sweet spot. And truthfully, I don't know what they would do in a
Yeah.
Lego Movie 3. Would Are we gonna Toy Story it and be like all these toys get donated now and now
Yeah.
like there's only so much you can do, and I think this was just such a sweet ending that I'm okay with it not going any further.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Well, yeah,
was fine with the
I give.
franchise just being the first film, but anyway.
Yeah, and I completely understand that argument. I think that's exactly how I was feeling when I first watched this film. Um,
Hmm.
I think now that I've seen it again, I'm like, okay, in hindsight, watching through it again, knowing that I'm gonna have like bracing for the absurdity of the time travel arc and all that stuff, it was just kind of like a okay, if I turn my brain off, I like it, actually. But yeah, it is kind of a you do have to turn your brain off for parts of this.
Yeah. Yeah. Or at least turn off the analytic or like the logic part of your brain to focus on more of the themes and the emotions.
Yeah,
Even then, that might not always work.
true.
For me, it did. I gave this a 4 out of 5 for story. Again, docking a few points for the humor and the story logic, but the themes just really connected for me.
That's fair. I ended up giving it a 3.2. I feel like I've changed it like 3 or 4 times as we've been talking, but I thought it wasn't. Again, I had to pull up the spreadsheet for the first Lego Movie 2 to see like my comparison there because that's kind of like my middle ground, or like my jumping off point for looking at this movie. I don't think the story was quite as good, but I think there were elements that were still really solid in it. Um, and because the story includes the writing as well, I think 3.2 is like, it's still an above average movie. It's still a movie that I'm going to recommend, but didn't quite get to the spot that the Lego movie did, I think, for me.
Hmm. I gave it a 2.8. I didn't really care. Nothing really stuck with me as really interesting. Yeah, in some regards, I say that even Ninjago did something even better than this. But anyway, uh, moving on.
You know what just occurred to me? Because the first Lego movie is The Matrix. The Lego Batman movie is, I guess that one is less plot wise mapped onto something, but it is like a superhero adventure. And then Ninjago is like martial arts. This one I can't think of off the top of my head an analog in that way that this is building off of.
I think they tried to make it a space adventure,
Yeah.
but they only did like a few things that were like it was almost more space adventure in name than it was in practicality. Like the Cis
Yeah.
star system was alien in terms of it being different, but it wasn't like a traditional alien planet, really.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
yeah,
they don't have the narrative to hang things on quite as directly, so maybe that's where some of the haziness is coming up in terms of plot logic. But yeah, characters.
yeah.
We have Emmett, and I said in the last episode that Emmett was one rejection away from going full red pill, and
Hmm.
the this was in the back of my head. This movie was in the back of my head when I said that, because that is his arc here, that
Yeah,
he is manipulated by someone who initially seems like he wants to help but is actually interested in forcing Emmett to abandon the things that make him a good person.
yeah.
And yeah, this
It's
feels to me very relevant to current events, even back in 2019. The
mhm.
way that specifically men are often targeted for these this movement of misinformation. And yeah, I think it's often called like the manosphere, this like giant conglomerate of podcasts and YouTube and all of these things that are sort of trying to manipulate men into a particular way of thinking and behaving that
Yeah.
is not great.
Yeah, and I think it deals with this issue in a pretty decent way too, because they recognize it's not entirely Emmett's fault.
Yeah.
In fact, the first part of the film is everybody around him saying, "Hey, you have to change. The world's changed. You got to be more rough and tumble." Even his I guess not girlfriend. They specifically say special best friend.
Yes.
His special best friend saying, "Oh, I wish you were more tough," kind of thing. And then realizing partway through, "Oh no, that's not actually what I wanted." But the damage was still kind of done where everybody around him is saying you have to change, and then the one person that says, "Oh no, no, no. I will make you change for the better. You just have to listen to me." I think that is an issue in the
Yeah.
like red pill alt right pipeline. Is there's a lot of men that are feeling the way of like everybody wants me to be a particular way, and it's a lot of pressure on me, and so I will do my best, but they end up falling for these people that are promising like, "Hey, we'll make you more manly, more masculine. You'll get all the ladies." Um, but it's kind of a conspiracy as to why they don't like you. It's they're actually all brainwashed, and you need to
Yeah.
fight back against them and change their programming, break them out of the matrix. Like that's a lot of the rhetoric that's used, and I think this movie does a really good job of showing like, hey, these are tactics that happen. This is how you can realize what's happening. And truth be told, it's even if you're in way over your head, if you've done some good damage, the best thing you can do is apologize and try to be better, even despite all of that. And that they don't always have your best interests at heart when they're leading you down this route.
Yeah. Yeah, because there does exist, and it's often used as a buzzword, but there is a lot of loneliness that a lot of especially young men feel, and
Yeah,
isolation. And I mean that's true of all young people to a certain extent. A
for
whole
sure.
lot of social issues that are doing that. But yeah, there is this like genuine loneliness, and we see like Rex has experienced that loneliness, but he has turned that into, I must reject everyone else. I can only look out for myself. Everyone else is brainwashed. They're sheep. They're not thinking for themselves. I'm the only one who matters, to the extent that he like goes back in time to quote unquote save himself from his friends.
Yeah,
And yeah, it's interesting that like he's Rex is like, "Oh, everyone's been brainwashed," when really what he is doing is he is brainwashing Emmett, or trying
yep,
to. Luckily, like
yep,
Emmett, as soon as Emmett destroys the temple, he realizes, oh, I was completely and entirely wrong about everything, and he hasn't gone deep enough yet to lose his sense of self, and he's able to be pulled back out of it. But yeah, there is this like, I mean, it's a cult. This is how cults work. They take lonely and vulnerable people and indoctrinate them and isolate them from their support systems. Um, so yeah,
yep.
it's weird that a Lego movie is commenting on it, but I very much appreciate that the writers seem to be thinking deeply about this and commenting on like the weirdness of Emmett's character in the first movie.
True. I think too it's good because this movie, just like the last one, is told from the perspective of the boy, of Finn.
Yeah,
And while I do think there are probably some arguments for this movie could have been better if it was told from the girl's perspective. I do think it is a very fascinating way that they did the narrative shift of, um, oh, we're going to the Sistar system because they're evil and they kidnapped my friends too. Oh, they weren't actually evil. They weren't actually malicious. And that maybe it's okay to open yourself up to this more vulnerable side, even as you're growing older. I think it's a good, for those watching it that can clue in on it, because I know when I first watched it, I was just like, okay, the plot's not that great. But in the lens of this, the brainwashing trope, I think it is a good perspective to show, hey, Emmett really wasn't the good guy in this film. He wasn't
Yeah.
really the good guy until the very end, when he persevered by not being brainwashed, essentially. Um, that that's what made him the hero. That's what made him special, I guess, to some degree.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's cool to see it from that perspective, um, and not them being the heroes the whole time. That there's this doubt, and ultimately, it just came from a big misunderstanding, and that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it is like Emmett has the reconciliation and everything. And yeah, I mean, hopefully, ideally, that can happen in real life. I know real life situations tend to be a little bit more complicated than kids' films, but
True.
yeah, that this is approaching these things with a lot of clarity and presenting like we as the audience, if you aren't clued into the various twists that are coming up, you are on Emmett's side of doubting everything going on in the Sistar system, doubting the how genuine it is. So that twist of, oh no, this is everyone is being genuine. They are actually having a good time and this is actually a positive thing. It hits so much harder being told from this perspective of the skeptics having to come to terms with themselves being wrong.
Yeah. Now, I will say, I think there are some good arguments from Rex's side. I feel like if my sister was putting glitter all over my Legos, I would be a little bit upset too. Just saying. Just saying they're not
Yep,
totally
yep.
faultless.
I do, yeah. That does definitely feel like a younger sibling gets in with your toys and kind of messes things up thing. I do like the style of it. I think it works very well. But yeah, it is. Yeah, yeah. The aesthetic ideas here. There is some. But yeah, Wild Style interestingly has this like similar arc here. She's almost the most analogous to Finn in that
Yeah.
at the start of this she has sort of rejected all of this quote unquote girly stuff and is trying to push Emmett in that same direction and has to realize that no, actually this is a side of herself that is important and that she can connect to other people through.
Yeah. Well, and it's important to realize that while she's not the villain of this movie by any means, she was also very much in the wrong.
Yeah.
Some of her actions are what drove Emmett to his like red pill destruction agenda. Um, and I think that is a good uh that's a good perspective to have too, is like, it wasn't just Emmett being like, oh, I'm gonna go be a loner now. It was everybody around him kind of trying to reinforce that, trying to make him into that. Um, and it's cool that they both have this reconciliation at the end where they're both sorry about it. And it's
Yeah.
it's it's a genuine like, hey, I'm so sorry that I wanted you to change. And Emmett's like, "Hey, I'm so sorry that I committed mass terrorism." They're like, "Okay, you're forgiven."
Yeah. Luckily, as you said with Ninjago, like it's Lego, so the stakes are lower in a way
Yeah,
that,
yeah,
yeah, yeah. But yeah, no,
definitely.
that this is almost like an anti coming of age, or not anti, but reverse coming of age story. I guess
Yeah,
that's not the right way to frame it, because I do think, and this is more my experience maybe, but having like the kids things or the girly things that you quote unquote grow out of, only to then grow back into those things,
yeah,
that Finn, in order to grow as a person, has to realize that he doesn't have to leave everything behind.
yeah,
And specifically that like emotional connection that the thing Rex is trying to stop Emmett from having is that connection to other people. And
yeah,
that Emmett has to be like, no, I am not going to see my friends as pieces of plastic. I am going to see them as people.
yeah,
I guess, yeah, that does fit very well with like certain rhetoric of, calling people NPCs or sheeple, of like, oh,
yeah,
these aren't people who really matter, not like you are the important smart person. Everyone else is just a character in a video game. You are the main character here. And yeah, Emmett
right.
has to realize, oh, maybe I'm not the main character, maybe everyone is the main character.
Yeah, he kind of regresses a bit in that regard because he's like, I I I feel like in the first film it doesn't matter that he's the like protagonist. He just wants to be someone to someone. I think he
Yeah,
wants to have those friends. In this film, he starts off being like, everybody's special, so we're all good, right? And then everybody is like specifically pushing back on that. And so he kind of goes down this route where he's like, well, I want to be special. So I guess I'm the only one that is special, and I can only really trust myself, even though he didn't know it was himself at the time.
yeah, yeah.
But yeah,
John, I'm curious, as we're having this conversation, if you have anything to add or
I
subtract or multiply,
no,
divide.
I didn't care.
fair enough.
Yeah. As for Wildstyle, like I like her growth here, and that like by the time they're all being stuck in the bin of storage, that she is the one who is trying to keep everyone positive and
Yeah,
find a way out of it. That she has now rejected that dark and brooding side of her from the beginning of the film. Is like, hey, maybe we need to be positive and work together
yeah.
sometimes, at least sometimes.
I did appreciate the joke of when they're like washing her hair, it's the black that comes out. Because yeah, when you're playing with Legos, sometimes you'll take a Sharpie to it and discolor things, and sometimes it looks good and sometimes it doesn't. But I appreciated the idea of that.
Yeah,
Especially because I feel like in most media or even in real life situations, like they'll change the character's hair and they'll be like, "Wait, you're not naturally a redhead or blonde," and it'll be like, "No, I don't know what you're talking about. Haha, I'm definitely always a blonde." And in this case, it's like, "Oh no, I definitely have naturally black hair and not pink and blue." I thought that was a
yeah,
funny,
yeah,
funny
and that
switch
and
up.
that it like connects back to this history. I love the reveal of her being one of the original singers of "Everything Is Awesome,"
Yeah,
because that song has like represented in these movies something that she absolutely cannot stand. Sort of in the as we learn in this film, it is the older person looking back on themselves as a younger person and being like, "Oh, that was cringy. I don't like that."
yeah,
But then she does have to like reconnect with that and be like, "Oh, actually that was okay." And actually I can then use this song and like turn it into something more meaningful.
yeah. Yeah, I thought that part was very good.
Yeah. I do think we need to talk about Finn as a character separate from these Lego characters. Um, yeah,
Yeah,
just this is my experience, and I think it comes through in the movie. When you're an older sibling, especially when you're like relatively close in age to your younger siblings are very good on at getting on your nerves, specifically in this way of like, to them you are the coolest person in the world. So anything you do is cool to them, which means that they want to do that thing too.
yeah,
And it gets to the point where like you never feel like you can have your thing without your younger siblings trying to get in on it.
yeah. And I think there is definitely something to be said of like, um, truthfully, a lot of the times it's just because they think that the older sibling is the coolest one. They just want to spend time with them. So I
Yeah.
remember like, as a kid, I of course wanted to play video games a lot, but I especially wanted to play video games when my sisters showed any interest in it because I was like, yes, finally, this is something that I love that they're trying. So of course I'm going to jump in too. But that wasn't always met with like the nicest, you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
response. Sometimes it was like, no, we're playing video games. You get to play video games all the time. Or like you play video games all the time, so you have to let us play it. It's like, well, no, but I want to play with you. I I would much prefer to play video games with you than by myself. And when you're a kid, from like the older kid perspective, you don't always understand that that's why the younger sibling might want to be doing that. And from
Yeah.
the younger kid perspective, you don't realize that that's why like your older siblings just want to be able to be themselves without you know, somebody copying everything that they do or following them around or um, somebody that they have to take care of kind of getting in their way.
Yeah. And it can lead to this like resentment, even just like on
Hmm.
a le like yeah, the sense of, as you were saying, yeah, the older siblings, I think especially, it can feel like, well, why can't I have anything to myself? And yeah, once you add in then societal expectations around gender, like things can get very messy very quickly. And that's what we're
Yeah.
seeing with Finn here, as he's growing up and he's trying to establish his own sense of identity and trying to sort of, he's not, he's trying to reject his sister in a way.
Yeah.
And like his sister though still like really admires him and wants to spend time with him, and he is trying to push her away. And this all gets like put into this imaginary game that he is playing in his head with these characters. And like Rex is who he thinks he wants to be, but he has to learn to be Emmett again.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
he
I think
thinks he wants
that's
to be the cool action hero, has no feelings, but that's not actually what he needs to do to be a to grow up. To grow up, he
yeah.
has to learn to understand that his sister wants to play with him. She isn't trying to destroy things, she is trying to play with him,
Yeah.
trying to find a language to communicate with him.
Yeah.
And yeah,
I think
this
that's a
is
really
like
good way of putting
expressed
it.
through Wild Style and Emmett's arc as well.
Yeah.
And yeah, Bianca, she looks up to and admires her brother and can feel him getting more distant, but still wants to find a way to break through to him. So she communicates with him in the language, that scene where um General Mayhem, her mask has been taken off, and Wildstyle's like, well,
Yeah.
why were you doing all of these things? And like she, and by extension Bianca, were trying to communicate in the language that she thinks he will understand, this gruffness and this meanness and like, yeah, this through the medium of Lego, but with so much more meaning behind it. And yeah, she is trying to communicate with Finn the way that he communicates with her, and there's a
Yeah.
miscommunication there, which leads to this giant misunderstanding, which is what the plot is all then built on.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And yeah, the scene of him destroying her creation is just so heartbreaking.
Hmm.
Like he has become his father and forgotten what it feels like to be on the other side of that.
Yeah, and very similar to the dad's arc. Um, he has this really good moment where, throughout the film we see like especially with the Duplo characters and how they like are consistently destroying everything, and we see the like wasteland of broken parts and stuff. Um, I assume that that is from the brother's perspective of, oh, every time she plays with Lego, she just destroys all of my stuff. And so I have to make my Lego in such a way that is not appealing to her. And that's why I've decided to go with this like wasteland desert theme, because she's not going to touch the brown bricks and that kind of stuff. Um, and then at the end, he has this very similar moment to his father of, he's packing away the Legos and he opens up her bin and sees, oh, these structures that she's made they're cool. They're really big and intricate, and she's using her imagination in her own way. And it isn't just, Duplo monstrosities anymore. She's actively trying. Okay. I realize where I've been coming from. I need to give her a chance.
Yeah, and he finds the heart, which
The
is
heart, yeah,
yeah,
and puts it back
uh
together. It's very
yeah.
cute.
Oh, that's one of the scenes that was making me start to get a little misty-eyed.
Yeah,
That she is
totally
able
agree.
to pull him back from the edge and remind him that like, hey, you love me on a certain
Yeah.
level, even if you don't like me at this moment. We had this connection all these years ago, and I remember it. And
Yeah.
this entire time, I have been trying to remind you of it. And I don't maybe have the language to express that in a way you understand, but it's here.
Yeah.
Yeah, it reminds me a bit of the Lego Batman movie where Robin has this thing of like, what would Batman do? He would be mean to everyone and do it by himself. But here, I don't know, it hit me so much more emotionally to have that. It's not as directly stated, but it is like the indirect statement of it, and like the love that transcends these artificial lines that Finn or walls that Finn has put up.
Yeah.
And yeah, that like they can start playing together and find this balance between their styles. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
just a very nice little ending there.
Yeah.
Emotionally
I
cathartic.
liked it a lot. I think they did a really good job with the siblings, making them feel like siblings. Because I feel like that
Yeah.
can be a struggle with some writers, is that either they feel like the siblings hate each other and want nothing to do with each other, and it feels unrealistic in that regard. Or the siblings are too close and you realize, okay, these actors are definitely not related, and it almost feels like the writers never had a sibling, and they're trying to like view the sibling relationship as the same as like a friendship or even a romantic relationship, which it is definitely not. In this movie it was like very clear, yeah, they're siblings, they're gonna get on each other's nerves, they're gonna be annoying, they're not gonna communicate well, but at the end of the day they do still care for each other. They don't want each other to be out of their lives. It's just takes a while to get to a good common ground sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah, and they figure it out, which I think is important. And obviously that's how it's going to end. This isn't going to have a tragic ending where Finn falls to the dark side, and but yeah,
Would
that
have been an
it's
interesting
so
way to
good.
go, though. I'll give
Yeah.
him that.
Yeah, and then kind of between them we have Queen Whatever, who isn't analogous to any specific character in the real world, but instead is like this representation of the love between these two siblings. And that
Yeah.
when she first shows up, that Finn is suspicious of this,
Mhm.
and through Wild Style is suspicious of this and doesn't, again, because within the worldview that he has either constructed for himself or more likely been taught to think, love is something that is fake, that is used to get something from people.
Mm. Yeah, or
So yeah,
at least specifically for siblings, because I feel like a
yeah,
lot of the time when you're a younger sibling or even just a child, you kind of you have moments where you're like, oh, if I'm more loving towards this sibling or this parent, they might get me the thing that I want. And
yeah,
I'm sure he's been burned by that a few times, and so he's a little bit skeptical here. um
yeah. But no, that the intentions here are altruistic,
yeah, which is
even though she
such
has
a
that song.
yeah, they do a really good job with the twist, because the friend that I was watching this with, she, like, at the end of the song, she's like, I actually don't know whether to believe her or not, because it makes so much sense for this character to be evil, because
Yeah,
that's where narratively it looks like it's going. But now that she says she's not evil, is that a red herring, or is it a double red herring and she's actually good, or maybe she's bad, but they're really doubling? It's so hard to tell. And I think they do a really
yeah,
good job on that part.
yeah. Again, it's
Uh,
important that we see this from Finn's perspective, because otherwise he comes across as a horrible person. And he is being a bit of a horrible person here, but because we're seeing it from his perspective, we understand where he's coming from and where he needs to grow.
yeah,
I also
yeah,
just like that she has this romance with Batman, who is such a sacred character. So anytime we get this kind of weird stuff with Batman, I enjoy it a lot.
yeah. I,
Like I have to
Batman,
imagine. Oh, go ahead.
I
Go ahead.
wouldn't call it a romance.
it is, yeah, it's kind of hard to define. It is not, because they
It's
do hint at,
Stockholm
like,
syndrome.
yeah, it's definitely a bit of that. And then also there's a moment of, like, he's like, haha, Superman, I bet you're super jealous. And Superman's like, no, I'm good. And Batman's like, yeah, he's super jealous. It's like, okay, they are still together largely because of Batman being egotistical. But
Yes.
um the use of Batman there, I think, is a really good, um as the love interest, is a really good idea, because I think oftentimes, like, superhero characters are beloved regardless of gender. Like, there's a reason why, like, Young Justice did so well with both genders, is because it it's not necessarily a gendered genre. A lot of people try to market it towards men mostly, but it's not particularly gendered. And there's a lot of women in my life that do really like different superheroes. Normally, admittedly, not Batman, but I could understand that, like, this girl playing with toys is like, I know that my brother loves Batman, I love Batman, and it becomes this, like, a really good common ground where it's like the heart that he made, and also Batman, which is a character that we both love potentially. Those are what are getting married. Um, and so the out of world perspective is really good, but also the in world perspective of, like, eh, the character manipulating Batman into competitively loving each other is like,
Yeah.
okay, that's funny. That's a good bit.
Yeah, they're the reverse psychology she does on him is so funny. Again, it works so well with the Lego Batman persona, which we'll
Yeah.
talk a bit about him. But yeah, the thing I also like, and unfortunately, I am on the Batman wiki right now, and unfortunately, this isn't the case. But really, she should be listed as like one of Batman's love interests. Like
Totally
that's
agree.
all I want to, because I know that would drive a certain type of nerd absolutely insane, that Batman has a relationship with a Lego heart lady.
I'm watching John in real time decide if that would really annoy him or if he would be okay with that. The emotions crossing his face right now are wonderful.
Yeah, maybe I need to go in and edit this Batman wiki to add her to
Totally.
the list of love interests. There isn't even
Go
an
ahead.
article on here.
Crazy.
Yeah. Oh. Rex Dangervest is such a facet. So first off, I love that they introduce him with like a list of Chris Pratt's roles. That he's this galaxy defending archaeologist, cowboy, raptor trader who likes building furniture, busting heads, and having chiseled features.
Yeah. Yeah, they definitely going into this film now had a much bigger star on their hands than
Yeah.
original Chris Pratt Lego movie. And they really did play into that a bit, especially with the Raptors.
Yes.
Yeah.
Ripley, Connor, and the other one.
Yeah, the other one is my favorite,
Quaid.
I think.
Yes.
Quaid.
No, they're referred to as the other one.
Yeah. But there is also
Yeah.
Quaid.
Oh yeah, there's a list of, because there's like a reference to multiple action heroes.
Yeah, they're all like 80s action people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do think it is interesting that the ones that get spotlighted most are the ones named after women.
Hmm.
And like to get back to the sort of gender stuff of it, that Sarah Connor and Ellen Ripley are often cited as like, by people who are complaining about women having starring roles in action movies, as like those are the two that they're okay with. Which,
Yeah.
okay, completely tangential to anything, but I think if those people watched those movies with the lens that with which they're approaching like Captain Marvel or whatever one they're mad about now, they would have a very different interpretation of that. But yeah, I don't know if that's intentional or if that's just an interesting coincidence. But yeah, Rex is like
Yeah.
this manosphere podcaster who is egging on Emmett's most toxic traits and like telling him to embrace this anger in a very destructive way
Yeah.
and distrust the people around him. And yeah, like specifically with the brainwashing thing, like telling him that his girlfriend and friends are all brainwashed, which is a common like conspiracy theory cult thing of everyone around you is either manipulating you intentionally or has been manipulated themselves. And so you
Yeah.
have to reject all of that and isolate yourself. And yeah, he is, throughout this film we are seeing him isolating Emmett from his support systems and trying to convince him that the world is out to get him. But he is also like, Rex is coming from this genuine sense of abandonment that he has then taken to these massive extremes. The way I put it is, men would rather burn the world down than go to therapy.
Right. Yeah.
That Rex is like, the thing that Rex needs is what Emmett gets, which is to reconnect with his friends.
Yep.
But he is so far gone that that isn't really an option for him.
I do appreciate, like, at the end, he just disappears. And I think that is kind of a bummer. I wish that they had just let him continue to exist, but get the, like, essentially therapy, reconnect
Yeah.
with friends, that kind of thing. Um, but I do appreciate the running joke throughout the film of like, oh, you can see him too? Oh, okay, cool. I thought he was just a projection of my inner self. I was like, in some ways, might have made a better film, but the fact that you're pointing it out does make me laugh.
I,
So
I mean that is the plot of Fight Club, down to the
Right.
dealing with masculinity and cult behavior, which I think that
Yeah.
must be what they're referencing. I hadn't
That's my
put two
guess
and two
too.
together, but yeah, so several people online had given reviews of, like, on Letterbox were like, "Oh, there are Fight Club references," and I was like, "Oh, I don't remember anything," but I think that's what they're talking about there.
That's what it is. Uh,
Yeah, but Rex is what Finn feels he needs to become in order to be a grown up, or subtextually a quote unquote real man. I just
right.
I think of, like, the clips that I have seen of those camps where people will spend like tens of thousands of dollars to, like, crawl around in the mud while someone yells at them in order to become a quote unquote real man.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is the vibe that Rex here is giving out.
Yeah, for sure.
but
Very
but
annoying
yeah,
for that sense, but very funny also.
yeah, they do a good job making his character interesting and
Yeah.
giving him a little bit of depth as well.
Yeah, I agree.
How obvious was it to you guys the first time you watched it that this was Emmett from the future?
As soon as he listed out his things, I was like, well, that's Chris Pratt, so there must be something going on there.
Yeah, it wasn't obvious that it was him from the future per se, but like the friend that I was sitting next to was like, "Is this just Emmett from an alternate dimension?" And I was like, "I mean, kinda."
Yeah.
So I remember them clocking it. I think for myself, I was like, "This isn't." I don't think I thought time travel was involved, but I definitely thought it was like gonna be either like a long lost twin or like a alternate dimension kind of thing. Like similar to how they're both Lego people, and Lego people can kind of be whoever you want them to be, but maybe they were both regular yellow construction worker people, and then this one specifically, it kind of a similar arc to like uh Buzz Lightyear in
Oh yeah,
Toy
yeah.
Story 2 kind of thing, where they're both factory made to be the same, but they both diverted. And so there's like this twinness to them. Um, but yeah, I don't remember the reveal being like all too crazy to me. It was just like oh, okay, I sure, okay.
Yeah. What how about you, John? When did you catch on to that?
I mean, obviously, when Finn, in that brief throwaway line, "Oh, I have a plot about time travel," and then Rex shows up, being Chris Pratt, dressed almost exactly like him but blue. I'm like, okay, well, this is probably what we're doing.
Fair.
Yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, we've talked a bit about Batman. He kind of regresses on his arc from the Lego Batman movie,
Yeah,
which is a little bit disappointing. At least they, like, acknowledge that he has regressed.
Yeah.
But it is a little bit, watching these in sequence right after each other. It's like, oh, there's something missing here.
oh yeah.
Yeah.
Where's Robin or
Especially,
the rest of the Bat family?
yeah, especially because like they had the one line of like the Justice League all going to fight the Sistar, and um them being like, "Oh, but where's Batman? Oh, he's off doing his own thing." It was like, "Oh, cool. Tie into the movie. That's great." And then the next time we see him, he's like back to his broody ways, and Alfred's there, and they're just like, "Yeah, it would be a real bummer if I had a whole arc where I learned to care about family and stuff. Anyways, here's the rest of the movie." And it's like, I can't fault the writers for that, because I assume that this was probably like an executive's thing of being like, okay, yeah, we had that in the last film, but like nobody wants to see a well-adjusted Batman. They want to
Yeah.
see Him
With the fan
Well-adjusted
half his own
ball.
Batman is
struggle.
no longer Batman. Well-adjusted Batman is Bruce Wayne, who has figured his stuff
True.
out. It's that weird thing of
Well, depending on what version you're watching.
Fair.
yeah. But yeah, it is that weird thing where like the character's continued trauma or inability to deal with whatever ails them makes them more interesting to watch as a character. But yeah, characters
Yeah.
aren't people, so the ethics of it are not really something. But yeah, it is disappointing that we have seen this growth from him, and it just has been completely reverted.
Yeah. Kind of a bummer. He still ends up being a good character. Like
Yeah,
his arc being the romantic interest kind of to whatever is funny. And I
yeah,
appreciate how it went from like, okay, we're just doing this because we're both competitive and whatever. And then they're like, each individually are like, oh yeah, no, this is actually kind of fun. We like this. This is cool. And so that I think that's cute.
yeah. And it does, what I really like about it is the way it approaches Batman feels, I'm gonna say feminine. I don't think that's does it, but like turning Batman into the romantic lead of the film
Mm. Hmm.
kind of center makes that a very different relationship. It feels like it is being told from a different perspective than what we have seen before, where Batman is like, he's the awesome cool guy who does the awesome cool stuff. It is now, oh, Batman is the attractive guy who you want to romance.
Yeah. And I think their inclusion of Batman here is good too, because I think Batman is one of those hyper masculine characters that
Yeah,
often gets used in the like alt right pipeline kind of stuff, where it's like, yeah, you gotta be like Bruce Wayne. You want to be a ripped billionaire that beats up poor people and all these different things. And it's like in this movie, Batman is there, but Batman is there as initially kind of like a damsel in distress, and
yeah,
then later on as just a romantic interest, kind of Stockholm syndrome, kind of not Stockholm syndrome situation. And it's like it, it's okay for him to be different. His focus in
yeah,
the film
yeah,
is because I assume both the children like Batman a lot. And so he's both presented as this hyper masculine side, but also as this like wedding planning groomsman or groom.
yeah,
He's just funny.
yeah. I enjoy his depiction here, in part because it is going to make certain people very angry, and I find it funny when certain people get angry about this kind of stuff, just like in general online people. um
Fair.
yeah, yeah. General Mayhem is an interesting character because she has this major emotional role to play, but isn't really that much of a focus.
Yeah. She's probably okay. I was about to say the thing that is written down in your notes, but yeah, she's probably the closest representation to Bianca as a character. Um, which is, I think, part of the twist where you expect the, you expect whatever to be either the mom or maybe the stand-in for the sister. And truthfully, Mayhem is probably the closest one to the sister,
Yeah,
where they do a really good job of her just being such a genuine character. There are a lot of moments of her looking cool, and then a lot of moments of her being uncertain. And you see those cracks of like, is this the writers just being funny with a super serious character, or is this a super serious character that isn't as super serious as we presume her to be? Um, and she ends up being a really cute character. I think that the casting decision was perfect because
Yeah.
what is it, Stephanie Beatrice
Yeah. Yeah.
um has done those like deep voice Rosa from Brooklyn Nine-Nine roles, but then she's also done Mirabel from Encanto, uh, and completely different ends of the spectrum. But that's exactly what this character needed, and so it fits very well.
Yeah, I love that moment of when her mask falls off and it's like the reveal of, oh, not only is she not who you would expect to be under that mask, but that the reason she was wearing the mask is because she thought that was the language that would break through, that this
Yeah,
is what she needed to be to communicate with, in this case, Wild Style, but more specifically, this is Bianca talking to Finn and being like, I thought
yeah,
if I treated you this the way you treat me, maybe you would listen.
yeah, yeah. It's a very cute moment. It's very much like they do such a good job with all the cutesy like characters. That like this moment was like it's tugging at my heartstrings too.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, very cute.
Any thoughts on the last few characters, John?
No, no, not really.
How about Metalbeard? I know you liked Metalbeard in the first movie.
So here's my thoughts for the next for like our side characters. So we have Metalbeard, Unikitty, and Benny. Um, I think that you could take them out. I love those characters from the last film, but they had nothing really to offer in this film. So I think they probably just should have been replaced with newer characters because they had already served their role
Interesting.
in the previous film. So they just kind of felt like they were there. Benny especially had nothing to offer. Metalbeard,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yep.
spaceship Metalbeard. He's he again the cool head that's a pirate, but not much there. Unikitty had the most because she was the most involved in the action. Um,
Yeah,
but besides that, they just didn't have any purpose to be there. Um, they got rid of like Vitruvius and the cops partially, you know, getting Liam Neeson and Morgan Freeman, but um,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
wonder what would have happened if they just decided not to bring back those obviously recognizable characters for most of the film and just let them be beginning and ending. But again, those were
I
popular toy things to keep.
yeah. I
yeah,
think they serve a very important role collectively of being the characters who seem to be brainwashed but are actually just having a good time. But yeah, that there is
yeah.
the sense of like there's nothing about these three characters specifically besides maybe Princess Unikitty. I do think there is a smart thing
Hmm.
they do with her where for a lot of the first part of the film she is stuck in her angry form, and upon arriving at the Sistar system she is able to then revert back to her not angry form. um,
Mm.
and I kind of interpreted that as like, because she is the most overtly feminine character that Finn is playing around with. So putting her in the angry form is kind of like his way of rejecting that femininity that then gets brought back in. Um, so yeah, and since she has the most to do, I do think she could maybe be the representative of all three of them because yeah, they don't really have much to do
Mm-hmm.
individually, even if
Yeah,
as a collective, I do think they serve an important function.
I think the role needed to be filled, but I do agree that it could have been filled with different characters that might have been a little bit funnier. I think Metalbeard, um, in the first film was had a lot of good humor to him, but I think in this film it almost overstayed its welcome, where it's like the bit that they kept jumping back to in the first film is, oh, he's mostly just a head with a robot body now. And then in this film, it was like, well, he's kind of just a head for a lot of this. And eventually we get him a robot body every once in a while, but that's kind of his whole bit. Or Benny loving the spaceship thing. Love that side. Like, I love that character in Lego Movie 1 because it's such like a, yes, there's a part of me as a child that just likes building Lego spaceships. I understand that. In this film, obviously he sees a lot of spaceships, and so that is a fun moment. But I almost feel like it would have been a more impactful moment if he showed up at the end. Like maybe they go back to the brothers stuff and they get Benny, and Benny gets so excited that everything is spaceships now. But I also do understand it from like a marketing and writing standpoint. The marketing side is these are characters that are unique to the Lego franchise, specifically this Lego franchise. Where like they wouldn't include like Lego Dumbledore because that's attached to a different franchise and would be harder for Lego to make sets out of. And they probably wouldn't want to attach it to a pre-existing Lego franchise like Ninjago, partially because their last movie flopped and because there's a lot more baggage. And from the writing side, I think it does make sense that those are the characters that went with, because most of the other characters seem to not particularly like Emmett at the beginning of the film. At least these guys are his friends. And even if they're like, oh yeah, Emmett's not cool, but he's still our friend. That's kind of the vibe that it's getting. So it does, at least in my brain, make some sort of sense. But it does give, at least for me, it's like whenever there's reoccurring characters that might not necessarily need to be there, my brain goes to, oh, okay, never mind. This world is not as realistic as I would want it to be, or as expansive. It is limited a lot more. It's like when you see a movie or like a TV show use the same set over and over and over instead of filming on a different location. It's like, okay, obviously they have a limited budget, but it would be nice if they went to a different location every once in a while. Yeah, as far as me, I don't have any particular qualms with most of these characters. I think Unikitty was a good barometer of showing that masculine older kid angst versus the younger kid playfulness and like prettiness.
Speaking of interpretations, we have Balthazar.
Yes. Okay. I have so much to say. Earlier this year, we did a Twilight series. I did a Twilight series of this podcast. I went rogue to talk about my new obsession, which is Twilight. I am in my Twilight era. I love those films so much. That whole series is so much fun. Anyway, yeah, he shows up. I had forgotten that he was in this. But for me, it's like so much fun that he is here because my journey with Twilight has been a very long and like up and down one, where when I first heard about Twilight, I kind of just rejected it on principle as like, that's a girl thing. I'm not a girl, so I can't even entertain the idea that maybe I would like Twilight. Like this is something I have to reject just on principle. At this point, especially like in the years directly following in like middle school and high school, I was very concerned with not appearing too feminine because I was terrified of like people realizing stuff about me that I didn't want them to realize. So like my rejection of Twilight was entirely based in that. Then over the years, my opinion just kind of softened as like, well, I don't feel that same way anymore about other things. So I don't have any opinions on Twilight. And then eventually I did like finally revisit it and came to the realization of like, oh, if I had read this when I was 14 or 15, this would have changed my life. I would have been so into this. And I'm kind of disappointed that I didn't get the chance to, because I was a total Bella in high school. I didn't have an attractive vampire boyfriend, unfortunately, but
Yeah.
yeah,
I
that
can't say
that
that
was
I did either, unfortunately.
Yeah.
uh, I did have an attractive werewolf boyfriend, but not the
Oh,
vampire.
okay. Well, at least you got
Yeah,
part of
yeah,
it. Yeah.
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 Got the better half. Hashtag Team Jacob. Anyway, yeah, no, that this was like this journey for me of rejecting it offhand because it was feminine, to then growing to really really love it and connect with it. So seeing Balthazar in here and coming back around to that, it felt like a very full circle moment of like, that's what this film is talking about, and it connects back to my personal journey in a really, just like an offhanded way. Like Balthazar is not really a character in any meaningful way, but it was just a fun reference. I pulled the quote that he describes himself as: he is an attractive, non-threatening teen vampire. He likes to talk about feelings and how we're in love but can't be together. Isn't that beautiful? Actually, I think the how they're in love and can't be together, I think that's a direct quote from Stephanie Meyer describing her idea behind Twilight. Um,
That's so funny.
yeah, no, it's great. I love that little. I was looking it up. Unfortunately, that figure was only in one Lego set, and it's like $150 now. But
Oh, of course.
I was so disappointed because I want to own a Balthazar. Now I will quickly say, to be a little bit pedantic, the point of Edward is that he is actually a little bit threatening. He's not non-threatening. He is a vampire. I think that's the culture around Twilight sort of framed him as non-threatening in a way that, like, the appeal of Edward as a character is that he is threatening. So I think that maybe got
Yeah,
lost here.
I think the cultural thing that people latched onto is that he doesn't particularly kill, and he doesn't burn in the daylight. He glitters instead,
Yeah.
and people are like, "Oh, he's the glitter vampire now."
But he is
Which is
canonically
funny.
a murderer who has killed multiple people to drink their blood. And he is like he has to restrain himself from killing Bella, which is like, okay, I did a whole series on Twilight. I don't have to get into this right now. Um,
Go watch the Twilight podcast,
yes,
viewers.
we had so much fun. Lot of really fun
Listen
guests
to.
who brought in intelligent takes on that. But yeah, anyway, that has nothing to do with anything. Yeah, then there are just kind of like other supporting characters. The mom,
Yeah.
she's here doing
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
questionable parenting things.
We've got the Justice League again. We've got
Yes, that is
um
a fun moment when the Justice League characters are all together doing like housework stuff, and yeah,
yeah.
just this like fun moment. And then the three versions of Wonder Woman that show up, that there have been like a regular minifigure, a mini doll, and a Duplo version of Wonder Woman, and they all
hmm
show up here. That was fun.
I liked how in the previous film they had, a star from the NBA, and then in this one they had a star from the WNBA. I was
Yeah.
like, that's funny. I appreciate that.
Did,
And then Bruce
okay, so
Willis.
Bruce Willis,
And
yes,
Bruce
Bruce Willis
Willis. Can't forget
shows up
Bruce
multiple
Willis.
times. He's fun. Did you catch, because Abraham Lincoln shows back up here? Did you catch his line that he says as he's being sucked into the bin of storage?
Yeah, I guess I'll never go to the theater or something like that. It's
He-
like,
He's like, but I
bro.
had tickets to the theater tonight.
That one, I did laugh at that one quite a
Yeah.
bit. That was a good one.
Oh, that might have been a laugh out loud moment for me. Oh,
It
yeah.
definitely was for me.
I gave the characters a score of 4 out of 5. I thought this was such an improvement. Specifically, Emmett and Wildstyle's arcs here are such an improvement on the first Lego movie, where it feels like they're being very intentional on giving them slightly more interesting and complicated arcs. And yeah, everything going on with Finn and Bianca in the real world is all, yeah, I just find it very relatable and really latched onto it here in a way that I didn't as much in the first Lego movie.
That's fair. I think for me, certain aspects were better and certain aspects were worse. So I left it at a 3, which is the same score that I gave for the previous film. Just because, like, Emmett and Wildstyle, I think, had some really cool arcs. But then, like, they dropped off a lot of the characters and reduced them to side characters. The father wasn't really involved, which was kind of a bummer for me. And I think the mother character just annoyed me more than anything. So for me, it was about the same. Like, not better, but not worse.
And I gave it a 3. I wasn't as invested this time around.
John, do you have any thoughts on the visuals since you haven't had as much to say on the other things here?
Thoughts on the visuals. I mean, for the most part, it remains consistently top notch. My only my only complaint, and it's really weird, the headpieces, there's something different about the headpieces this time around because they're ultra reflective and they're not as like
Mm,
physically tangible or feel real. They feel like unpolished things, like they're missing like a texture graphic there.
interesting.
And it was distracting me the entire film, especially Emmett's face. It was like, I feel like there's something wrong that I can't quite grasp what it is.
I'll have to take a look at that later because I didn't even notice that. That might bother me now, but that's okay.
Yeah, to
Yeah,
be honest, like, oh, go ahead.
I think so for me, I'm looking at both your scores, so I'm kind of leading this charge. I think it was just as good, if not maybe even better than the first Lego movie as far as graphics go. Uh, that was kind of just my take coming from it, and I think it's also coming from the perspective of the Lego Ninjago movie and the Lego Batman movie, which both use more realistic particle effects for like smoke and water and lighting. Um, and those are all very cool. But I really loved in this movie, whenever there was smoke particles, it was made up of Lego. And it was almost more of a 2D, like bricks stacked on top of each other, moving and distorting out of the way. Loved that. I think they brought that back in a really cool way. They did some really cool stuff with just the lighting, and I think I just like it. I think it's probably just as good to me, in my opinion. Oh, and they also added a few different animation styles in with like hand drawn, like cartoonish, like on paper. I guess not cartoonish, but like child drawn on paper segments.
Yeah,
And they did a really good job too with the segments underneath the washing machine, the washing and dryer, uh, where I'm almost certain that was still 3D animated, but they did a really good job of making it look like it was really there. Um,
yeah,
and even the animation just translated really well. So I think
yeah,
the visuals are at least on par with the last one.
yeah. The stuff under the dryer, like, it does look like Lego figures being puppeted with like invisible strings, or with like at the end of popsicle sticks being smashed. I love that stuff so much. And the difference between that and the stuff that is happening in the Lego world more direct. Again, I don't know how any of this works out story logic wise, but animation wise it was really cool. I was really noticing how loose the movements feel here compared to, and maybe I'm just misremembering the first Lego movie, but it feels like the arms and the heads, they're being a little bit more elastic with the movement there in a way that I'm a little bit disappointed with. And obviously you're bringing in also the mini doll figures, which are
True.
even more difficult to like work within the limitations there while creating convincing movement since they don't have
Yeah.
distinct legs. Um,
I,
so yeah,
for me, oh, sorry, go ahead.
oh no, you can go ahead. I don't know where I was going.
Okay. The one thing that I think pushed me over the edge to rate it as highly as I did is that it specifically the character of whatever, how
Yeah.
they did the animation for that where she's morphing into a bunch of different things. I'm sure that that was not easy to animate. I don't know what
Yeah,
magic they did behind the scenes. My brain was trying to figure it out the whole time. And she's not the only one. A lot of the Duplo characters have similar movements. Um but I really love how they did her animation, to the point where I was like, as soon as I saw her moving around and was like processing it a little bit more, I was like, okay, I was going to give this a 4.9 because I think I just have an internal bias towards the first Lego movie. But truthfully, this is very well done and I like it a lot.
yeah. You might talk me into raising my score because yeah, her animation specifically is very good. But I do also like the different things of like in the Sistar system, the water is made of fabric, and the way that
Mm,
moves is very interesting. The thing with the spaceships where they'll sometimes like zoom out and it'll just be the a miniature
little
version
the
of the
string.
spaceship being held up. Yeah, yeah, that stuff is
That
so good.
was
And like, there's so many good designs here. Like, I love how quote unquote feminine the Sistar system is. It reminded me a
mhm,
bit of the Barbie space adventure movie. Just like the colors and the way everything looks. I really enjoyed that, and that aesthetic is one that I find very appealing. Um, Also, just like all of the different movie references, like the Mad Max stuff at the beginning. I love Mad Max Fury Road. Probably one of my top 5 favorite films of all time. So all of the references to that, the little Jurassic Park stuff with the dinosaurs, and all of the visual gags with the dinosaurs were great. Just like dinosaurs doing office work or hanging out. When Rex shows up and has like this ball and is like, "Hey, do you want the ball?" And all the dinosaurs are like, you see the subtitles, they're like, "Oh, I love tennis." Like they
tennis,
aren't being
tennis,
brought in.
tennis.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they don't care about the ball; they care about the sport.
Yeah.
It's so much fun. Um, yeah, there's so much going into it that I really do appreciate, and it does at this point. This is the fourth movie in this style, so there is a sense of like the style doesn't feel special the way it did the first time around, but they are
Yeah.
finding ways to add new things and to innovate in a way that feels exciting.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna raise my score. I'll put it up to a 5 out of 5 for the visuals.
Let's go. I'm influencing. Yeah, I
An
also have it at a
influencer.
5. I thought it was just good. I like my Lego movies.
Yeah, I'm leaving it at a 4.5.
Oh, I could influence John. I tried though.
John is very set in his ways.
That's fair.
Yeah.
He knows what he knows what he thinks.
Yep,
I
yep.
respect it.
I
I'm very changeable. You can talk me into whatever you want to talk me into.
Okay, good to know. Note to
Maybe
self:
not
easy
whatever,
to
but
manipulate. Anyways, we'll get you on that alt right pipeline before too long. Don't worry, Jay.
I don't know that that would work on me, given things about myself that are not compatible. I guess, yeah.
That's
That's
fair.
that's a different discussion. Not this podcast. That is beyond the scope of it. Anyway, performances. I actually liked Chris
Performances.
Pratt in his dual performance. I thought he did a good job making them sound distinct. Maybe not the best job that has ever been done making two distinct character voices, but
Sure.
he put in the work.
Hmm.
Yep, I
You
agree.
know, there was a Velociraptor that said, "I hate Mondays."
Yes, there was.
Whoa, they knew before it even happened.
Also, Batman, whew, the poorly aged lineup. We have 3 Batman movies in development, when only
Yikes.
one came out. So, mhm.
Yeah,
Uh,
and they even reference Chris Pratt being cast as Indiana Jones, which then didn't end up
Ye-
happening.
yeah. Well, rumored
Probably
casting.
for the better. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, true.
I really like
Uh,
Tiffany Haddish as Queen whatever.
she did a
I
really
think
good job.
she's bringing the right stuff to the role. And how
Yeah.
you mentioned Stephanie Beatrice as General Mayhem.
Hmm. Yeah, I love her performance in this. When I was watching through this with a friend last night, we were like, that voice is so familiar. What is it? And of course, they have like the voice filters on it while she's wearing the helmet. Um, but I was like, who is it? Who is it? Who is it? And then we looked it up and we're like, oh, of course, it's Rosa from Brooklyn Nine-Nine. This makes so much sense. And then she takes off the helmet later. And I'm like, oh, of course, it's Mirabelle from Encanto. This makes so much sense. Um, but I think at the first time I watched this, I obviously hadn't seen Encanto. It hadn't come out, but I hadn't seen anything that she had been in. Uh, so it definitely it triggered the happy neuron in my brain when I was like, I know this one. Uh,
Yeah, yeah. I also did want to shout out Jaden Sand, who played Finn in the first movie and is also back here to play Finn. I thought he did a really
yeah.
good job. He actually, I was just looking this up. He just graduated from university
Hmm.
Oh,
because
congrats
I
to
was
him.
curious how old he was. I thought that was interesting passage of time stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And then Brooklyn Prince as Bianca. She was a couple of years before this. She was in the Florida Project, the Sean Baker, who just won the Best Directing Oscar, his film. Um, and yeah, she does a really good job playing this younger sister role.
Hmm. I will say, and this is one part where casting, I don't know how to feel. Okay, I have some gripes with Maya Rudolph. I think she can be very funny. But whenever I see her in anything, there's always this like feeling that she's not acting, she's just comedianing, if that makes sense. Where when I first saw this movie, and mind you, I have gripes with the character of the mom in this movie. So maybe that's just influencing how I'm seeing the actress. But when I first saw her in this movie, I was like, I don't I don't know that I like her. And because they extended that scene so many times for her stepping on the Legos, I was like, okay, this is going on a little bit too long for me. Um, I don't know that I wouldn't go as far as to say she was the wrong choice for the role because I think she does fine. I don't think she's particularly bad, but I think the way they frame the character and the way they edit the scenes made me dislike her in this as a casting choice.
Yeah, and she's very much playing into her persona here. Not
Yeah.
entirely dissimilar to how Will Smith or yeah, That's his name. No, no.
Will Ferrell.
Will
What's his
Ferrell?
name? Will Ferrell.
Yeah.
Yeah, him. How he was doing it in the first movie. I think the first movie though, since he is playing President Business, he gets a little more space to play around with that. Whereas Maya Rudolph really has like the one
Mhm.
scene and then a couple of cutaways.
Yeah, and I also think like in the first film they made the real life stuff a lot more serious, and it was like, oh yeah, my dad is a serious businessman, but in the Lego
Yeah.
world, he's a little bit goofy, and that's fun. In this one, it's like we only see her as a real human, but they kind of undercut a lot of the emotional value with her humor. And I like Maya Rudolph in other roles. I think she can be really funny. I loved her in The Good Place.
Yes.
But
Yes.
in this particular spot, it was like, I don't know that they needed a comedian for this role. I think they just needed a mother figure.
Yeah.
Um, and they kind of leaned too hard into the comedy here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder if they had cast someone else, if that would have worked a little bit better. But I do love that. Like when she showed up, I had forgotten that she was in this, and I was just excited to see her.
Yeah, that's fair.
Mhm.
I'm looking through all of the other cast, and I love Dolphin Clock being a legitimate character in this to have been voice
Yeah.
acted.
Yeah. We also have Ben Schwartz here, which is a
Oh
crossover
yeah.
Yes.
we had from Sonic, which is another thing that we did. So, uh-huh.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, as soon as I heard his voice, I was like, wait, I know that one. Who is it? It's Sonic! Which is
Yeah.
ironic because his character is particularly made for not running, but falling down.
Yes. Yes.
Uh, which they played that up quite a bit, which was funny.
That's one of the jokes that is like so stupid that you can't help but find it funny.
What?
And they keep
Yeah.
repeating it, and it keeps getting like even more stupid and yet more enjoyable. But
Yeah.
you
I'm
seem to
not that
disagree.
person. That was just bad the entire time.
They
Then yeah.
oh, go ahead.
Then we have Noel Fielding as Balthazar, who I know from British
Noel
Baking
Fielding.
Show. So one of the hosts of
Yes,
British Baking
Oh,
yes.
Show.
that's funny. We
Yeah,
also
they
in
have
this
been good.
film they had two versions of Aquaman. At
Yes.
the
Yeah.
very beginning, they have like original Aquaman that everyone's like, yeah, this guy's a loser. And then later on, they bring in literally Jason Momoa Aquaman, voiced by Jason Momoa. Uh, and I was like, okay, that's pretty good.
Yeah, yeah.
What's weird
It's
is that
funny.
his first two lines are taken straight out of the Justice League film. Like they're the exact
Are they
performance
really?
audio. Yeah,
Oh.
That's
my
I,
man,
wo-
amazing.
and
I wonder
woo,
Oh,
that's
man.
like straight from the film. The
I
exact
wonder
take.
if the other stuff is also like lines that didn't get put into the film, because that would make sense to pay him for lines that already exist versus having him come in and record new lines.
Yeah, maybe.
Although
Honestly.
I don't remember what he says beyond the first appearance.
Yeah.
So there might be distinct lines. Yeah, I love that commentary on, because like the way that Jason Momoa made Aquaman his own.
Yeah.
Because Aquaman before Jason Momoa was the joke of the Justice League. This like weird guy who talks to fish. And then Jason Momoa comes along and with his charisma and his personality turned, I believe to this day, the first Aquaman is the highest grossing DC film and the highest grossing Warner Brothers film. I think Barbie may have
Oh,
passed it. Um,
I would assume so. I do think
yeah,
there is the asterisk of in like popular media because I think in the
yeah,
comics Aquaman is is a pretty solid character. It's just that
And
the
in
main pop
animation,
stream, yeah,
and in
the
video
main like
games.
also true. The main like pop culture representation for him for a long time was just Justice Friends, which did
Super
not
Friends.
ironic or Super Friends did not do him justice. Pun intended. So I think it I like how they played on that, but they didn't harp on it too much either. It was just an offhanded joke that if you missed it, you missed it, but it was still funny.
Yeah,
But yeah.
I like this cast. I think everyone does a good job here.
Yeah. Same.
I gave them a 4 out of 5.
I ended up giving them a 3.75, which is the same as the first Lego movie. Just solid.
Yep, and I gave it a 3.5.
Well, yeah. Last up, we have the music and sound.
Mhm.
This is a bit of a musical. There's actually more musical numbers than I remembered there being.
Yeah.
Of course, the Not Evil song is one that I listen to every once in a while because it's just so much fun. The way it's played on your expectations and all the like, it's so funny. Like the way she is describing herself as like unduplicitous, unmalicious, unconniving.
Yeah.
Just I love that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Very funny. A lot of we talked in previous ones about um how especially in the last two films they use a lot of licensed music. Um and sometimes that's good, sometimes that's bad. I think a lot of movies tend to lean on that as a crutch more than they should. This movie doesn't have a lot of licensed music. I don't know if it has any actually. I'm looking at
I
the
think there's a couple
soundtrack.
of yeah.
There's a
There's
couple.
Yeah.
there's like stuff played as jokes briefly. But yeah,
Yeah.
there's not to the same degree that the last two have had.
Yeah. And a lot of the like pop music with lyrics that would fill those spots as like licensed music, they have their own custom music, which I think adds to the humor a lot. We've got things like Gotham City Guys. We've got
Yes.
Catchy Song, which
Yes,
is
which it does exactly what it promises to do. It gets
yeah,
stuck in your head.
But then 5 minutes later, you completely forget about it. So
that is true.
I
It is a
mean,
lot more
I don't
forgettable than Everything is Awesome.
yeah,
Uh,
I think that is to the song's credit because if it were as catchy as Everything Is Awesome, it would be insufferable.
I think they were
true.
intending it to be as catchy, but it didn't quite succeed.
It
Yeah.
doesn't have as many lyrics to it because it's really just the like one refrain and then a couple of other things.
Yeah. I think I appreciate it though because it is making fun of well, it's making fun of itself for one.
Yeah, yeah.
Two, I don't think they had the intention of Everything is Awesome to do as well as it did. And so when it did do well, I think in this film, Catchy Song is just kind of making fun of that. Just that like Everything is Awesome did so well. I don't think they intended every Catchy Song to do as well by any means, but more of like a haha, we made a catchy song in the last film. We're acknowledging that.
Yeah, and
But
it
yeah,
then turns into because what we hear Everything Is Awesome come back, but it gets brought
yeah,
back as a subversion when Wildstyle is singing it, and it turns into Everything's Not Awesome, and it's a commentary on the original song of hey, there's more nuance to this than everything is awesome all the time. We need to be I forget what the exact lyrics are, but it's like that's not a realistic expectation of how things
yeah,
should be.
yeah. It's a good line.
Which is like the original Everything Is Awesome is within the film a propaganda song that is meant to indicate that something is very wrong,
Yeah.
but that is not its cultural legacy. So to have
Yeah.
a commentary on that is very smart.
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah, I enjoyed all the music and the sound and stuff here, so I gave it a 4 out of 5.
That's fair. I gave it admittedly, most of these scores, I feel like I tried my best to seek out the logic and comparing it to a previous one. This is purely based off of vibes. I think a lot of the music is better than the original one, but I'm still giving it a 3.65 instead of the 3.75 that I gave the original because I just feel like it doesn't. I guess what I'm going to use logic to justify is it doesn't feel like it has the same staying power. The soundtrack for both of them is fine. I like the background soundtrack. In fact, a lot of the electronic parts of the music for just the score is really nice. They do a really good job. Um, and all the sound effects, obviously a lot of sound effects are the pew pew sound effects. Um, but the sound effects of the stars that are just voiced by children and then
Yes.
explode, they do a great job with the sound there too. So it's it's good, but I'm going to say it's just a step below the last film.
And I gave it a 3. I didn't really care for the music in this one. Uh, Me and musicals, we don't typically work well together. While this one, the musical aspect does what I think a musical should do. I didn't really care for the music itself, so yeah.
Well, yeah,
That's fair.
this leaves me with a final score of 21 out of 25, which is an 84% or a 4.2 out of 5 stars.
That leaves me with an 18.6 or a 74%, uh, uh, which is a 3.72 out of 5 stars.
And I have a 16.8, which is a 67.2% or a 3.365 star rating.
Nice.
Yeah, the
Yeah, yeah.
Lego Movie 2. This was a fun one. I thought I enjoyed thinking
Yep.
about this one.
It's definitely like if I'm gonna rewatch any of the Lego movies, it's gonna either be the first Lego movie or Lego Batman. This is
Yeah.
one that doesn't have as much rewatchability in my brain because it's a little bit more. I don't know. It's just not like a comfort media in the same way that the others are.
Yeah.
And there's more stretches in it, I guess. But still, I think very good. And I think, you know, oftentimes sequels have a bad rap of being much, much worse than their originals. I think this is just maybe a step down, but still following the same path and logically makes sense with the first film.
Yeah.
I didn't really want to be here, so um, yeah, I doubt I'll come back. Yeah, like Lego Batman and Lego Ninjago, I have my issues with them, but those issues are like more of a personal preference, where I can see aspects of those films that I could see are well done. I didn't care about anything in this film at all, so yeah.
That's understandable. I can see where you're coming from.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, yeah. Well,
yeah, yeah.
in that case, yeah, thank you everyone for listening, and make sure to follow us on social media. We're Binging Barbie Podcast on Instagram and Tumblr, Binging Barbie and Blue Sky and Serialized, and Binging Barbie, a Barbie movie podcast and Letterboxd. And if you enjoyed this episode, make sure to leave a 5-star review. And go join our Patreon at patreon.com/Binging Barbie Podcast. Toa, where can people find you?
You can find me mostly on twitch.tv/Toa Legend, where I stream weekly Thursdays at 10 p.m. Eastern. I also do YouTube stuff sometimes,
Sometimes.
but I haven't posted in a while, so just go to the Twitch for now.
Yes. And we'll be back next week to talk about the most recent theatrical Lego film, the documentary Piece by Piece. And until then, if you do not leave a 5-star review, we will totally not imprison your family.
Bye, Barbie.
Bye.
Bye, Barbie.
Spaceship.